Dr. Sushma Jaiswal, it is said that you are lucky if you can work under a world-renowned mentor in the early stages of your professional life. Dr. Sushma is one of these lucky ladies who started her practice under the guidance of Dr. Vishpala after passing her BHMS. She is lucky enough to work with Dr. Asrani also. She has completed her PG diploma in hospital and healthcare management from from IIM Ahmedabad. And for last 20 years, she has successfully treated various cases. As she has done her MS psychotherapy also, she has guided many individuals by understanding their psychology for to a better life. Since year 2000, she is a member of editorial board of NJH and has contributed by writing numerous articles and blogs. She is editor of book Platina, which is being written by Dr. Vishpala ma'am. She is a gifted orator in consumer health care and delivered several homeopathic as well as health talks. So I called Dr. Sushma, the energetic, dynamic lady, to enlighten all of us about the homeopathic approach towards the calculi, renal calculi. She will speak about case in detail and how it is important to dispel the stone with holistic approach. She will also present what challenges one may face while treating such cases. So over to you, Dr. Sushma.
Thank you so much, Pradeep sir, for the introduction and a very warm evening to everyone here. I would like to start my presentation with a small video.
तकलीफ है
बहुत पिराता है यहाँ, बहुत पिराता है।
कब से दर्द है?
तो है बहुत दिन से, लेकिन आज सुबह से बढ़ गया।
अच्छा,
बहुत दर्द होता है।
दर्द के बारे में कुछ बताइए।
क्या बताऊँ दर्द के बारे में? दर्द हो रहा है, बोल रहा हूँ ना, बहुत दर्द हो रहा है।
अच्छा ये बताइए कि दर्द ज्यादा कम होता है और कम कब होता है?
ये भगवान क्या बताऊँ आपको। अरे अभी भी दर्द हो रहा है।
उल्टी होती है?
उल्टी कभी कभी होती है।
अच्छा, गर्म से अच्छा लगता है या ठंडे से?
ये हो, आप लोग क्या डॉक्टर, गरम ठंडा। अरे मुझे खाली पिला रहा है, बोल रहा हूँ ना।
अच्छा ये बताइए कि पेशाब में खून जाता है?
हाँ, थोड़ा थोड़ा जाता है।
So कितने सवाल पूछोगी? I wanted to take this incident because this has happened to me when in my early years of practice. You're so enthusiastic, you get a patient and you want to treat and you want to know all the symptoms you can. And when I started, questioning, the patient said, "कितने सवाल पूछोगी? I have a report which says that I have a stone. Why don't you give me medicines for that?" So of course they're new to homeopathy, they don't know, but we fail to realize sometimes, like sir said, the pain can be really intense, can be sudden, can be stabbing. There can be a dull ache, but then suddenly in between there are waves of pain. And then you need to be really quick on prescription. This is one condition where we as a homeopath need to show what kind of good observational skills we have. There is paucity of symptoms in a way that there are symptoms, but the patient is not able to give. This is what I have observed with a renal acute agonizing pain. And it is kind of a double-edged sword. So if you don't get your symptoms right, the SOS won't work, the acute won't work, and then the patient may not come back also. Because that is the time they want, a relief, they want instant relief. So this is one condition where you need to give that to the patient. Then that brings us to another important question. Is it okay to take homeopathy for a calculi? Will it help? Because in this condition, usually the patient has been advised surgery. So they think that surgery bola hai, homeopathy kya kaam karega? Kaam karega ki nahi karega? These are the questions which, are there in the patient's mind. And as a homeopath, I think it is not only our job to find a simillimum, but beyond that. This is one condition which is affecting our working age adults. It is an economic burden. 30% of the patients, they miss their work. And treatment of stones are associated with 3.1 million lost work days per year. and 5% of the world's population will develop a stone at some point of that time. So imagine, like, if you're treating a stone and you're able to successfully dispel the stone, you're saving the patient not only the trauma of going through the surgery, but lot of the money. Like, it ranges from thousands to lakhs. So that kind of work is what we are doing if you're successfully treating a renal calculi patient. One more unusual experience. There was a 39-year-old male, severe excruciating pain. Pain was better by jumping. The moment he would jump, like we do skipping 5 to 10 times, the pain would get better. And the duration of relief due to jumping would be at times few minutes or 2.5 an hour. So, I got into action, found the remedy, gave the remedy, that is it. Now, after 1 month, what happened was one more patient came and he told me the same amelioration, that I'm better by jumping. So I got a little suspicious that how am I getting, a patient, so many patients better by jumping. So I just asked him that, who has referred you? So he gave me the name of the patient who was a 39-year-old male. That he's my friend and he was better. And he said that, thoda jump karo, jab bhi pain hota hai, and then it will get better. Then that is when I realized there are a lot of common myths in renal calculi. A lot of it. I have come across so many myths, and it is hilarious. So I feel that, whenever you get some symptom or some amelioration which is very funny, very wacky, please go back and ask the patient that is it really helping? Because these are the condition where they have heard something, they try to do it, and there's so many things which people say you do this, you do that. So as a homeopath, it is very important that you dispel these myths also along with the stone. Like one I said is jumping. Then there is like seed grows into stone. So they don't want to take tomatoes, they don't want to take, vegetables which has stone, because they think that is what is going inside and making the stone. This one is very important because, we all know that drink more water and the stone, it will help in dispelling. The common men, for them, the hydronephrosis word is kidney mein sujan. That is what usually even the sonologists tell them, ki aapki kidney mein sujan hai. So what they think is sujan means there is more water. So if I take, more water is already there in the kidney, and if I take more water, it is going to harm my kidney. So they end up drinking very less water. This is, and I have seen this in many of the patients. They come with the background that nahi doctor, kidney mein already sujan hai, pani bhara hua hai, aur pani piyenge to it is going to harm. So it is very important that you dispel this myths which they have along with the history taking you're doing. And of course there are like so many things they say, ye preparation se theek hoga kya, wo hoga kya. So you need to have a dialogue regarding this as well. Miasmatic differentiation. I want to do a quick recap of the miasm here because I'm going to tie this up with the do's and don'ts later on. So I thought I'll just in one slide give you a quick background of it. So your psora. So we all know the inflammations of psora, the nephritis, the cystitis, the smarting and burning pain, the sensations, aggravation from cold, usually associated with anxiety, apprehension. There will be a fibrous change. And basically the urine would be no more to the dark side or yellowish thing. Then you have your psychotic. Here what happens is, the calculi you will see in the other part. So it would be more towards the ureter, something like that. Pulsating, stitching pain, wandering sensations, aggravation in damp, rainy weather, and painful micturition. Your cramps will be here, the spasms will be here, and usually the urine is yellowish or a fish brine odor. Syphilitic, yes, there would be more advanced stages, structural changes, aggravation in the night. Here you would see more of a pus, blood in the urine, diminished flow because of the obstruction, and the advanced stages, irritation and burning. And in the tubercular miasm, it will be more of a blood in the urine, hematuria, your aggravation in the night, the restlessness, the weakness, that all will be part of the tubercular miasm. So now I will be taking a detailed case presentation, and then I will be moving, because it's a treatise, I'll be moving into a compilation of cases as well. This was a patient came to me in 2018 for the treatment of renal stones, a mechanical engineer. He was working. He already had one episode where he had to be hospitalized, and that was the time he was diagnosed for the first time. Was given hydration therapy. He was on allopathic medicines. He had come just after the hospitalization part. He used to get cold and cough occurring once in 6 weeks, lasting for a week, and then cold drop, aggravation, nose block. Physical appearance: he was 5'6", 75 was the weight. Thirstlessness, cravings for meat, sweet, salty, butter, chocolate, a lot of delicacies, eggs, fruit, milk. Stool was normal. Sleep was 6 to 8 hours deep and full of dreams. But he used to get a lot of premonition. He said that usually, doctor, whatever I see, they come true. Thomas, he was more towards the hot side. He was the youngest of 3 children. Father was a businessman. He had developed cancer prostate and he died 2 years back. It was a very close-knit family. No fights, nothing. Mother was very protective of him. He had an elder brother and a sister. And patient usually used to be very sick. He said, all my childhood and all, I used to be very sick. Something or the other used to happen to me. Sister was married. And she had a lot of issues, which was bothering the patient a lot. Like, she had issues with the in-laws, there was harassment, she was almost at a verge of getting divorced, and now was staying with them. This worried him a lot, and he used to fail, he has failed as a brother. That was the feeling he used to get. Though he was optimistic. So he was just, I know she will come around. But that was the entire episode with the immediate family member. He had a lot of fears. Like, you name a fear and he had it. Fear of future, fear of animals, fear of being alone. And since the father had died of cancer, that was also troubling him a lot. That what if we get it or I get it? And the last episode of the renal stone which he had, that is also playing on his mind. So all the time he's like, there's a possibility I will get a pain anytime. Then what will I do? If I'm at a place where there is no help, then what will I do? A lot of anticipation because of this. Now with fears and otherwise too, he wanted the family members to take care of him. He always wanted, someone should take care of him. So he had gone ahead in his office. He told his friends that, I have this stone problem. And if at all, I get a sudden place, please take care of me. This is my doctor. You take me there, something like that. So that kind of anticipatory anxiety was there, always on the back of the mind. This is his USG abdomen. So he had a left upper ureteric calculus, which was 8 to 9 mm, and it was at a distance of 2.8 centimeter of pelvic ureteric junction. And there was one stone. So possibly that had passed during that admission what he had. That is what the USG showed. Now the remedy selection. I took fears. There was a lot of fears, as I mentioned. About the health, about the ailments, there was anticipation. And it always, for him, it was like, threatening kind of condition, a situation, which was uncontrollable for him. So fears is what I took. Then always wanted a comfort, like wanted a comfort from family members, wanted friends to take care of him. So almost everything ameliorates if, there's a company or there's people around. And if you remember the cravings I told you, those were also a lot of comfort foods, like, cheese, butter, a lot of delicacies. So that is a trend of this remedy, which I thought it is. Introverted yet optimistic. So you saw there was a lot of anxiety about the family, about the sister. But at the same time, he also felt that she will get on with life. So there is an introversy, but then optimism also. And then the family history of cancer. As I mentioned, the father had died of 2 years back of cancer. So I thought of carcinosin in this case. introverted, you will often find, like Vishpala ma'am used to always say that you will always find this carcinosins are not married. And I just remember that even the telegram case we did, which turned out to be carcinosin is not getting married. So somehow, this is a sentence I've taken from one of her writings, that they do not take up the opportunity when it is there, and sometimes they don't have that quality to set up homes. They need a lot of comfort. As I said, they wanted comfort in the form of family member, friends, in form of food, and there was an overprotective mother. So thus, there's a need to be taken care of still now. That is where it comes from. Follow-up, I'm giving it in a short. In the entire period I've treated him, there were 3 instances where he got this pain again. I had given him Cantharis because of the obvious symptoms which matched it, and it helped also. So the first time when he came, he said that the pain is all over the abdomen. The urination was giving him a lot of trouble. That it was in drops, and the first time he said, I feel like screaming. The pain is so bad. So Cantharis did help, and the other 2 times he did get those symptoms, but it was definitely at a very low scale. And in one of the letter sessions, he mentioned that, usually he likes to sleep on his abdomen, and if he bends and it ameliorates. So that knee chest position also confirmed the carcinosin part. And in this 2-year-old period, whenever he got these episodes, I repeated carcinosin once a week. Otherwise, I was giving him once a month or once in 3 months, depending upon how he was. I was repeating the USG. As sir said that, I'm working at his clinic. So we have this kind of association where we take care of the patient in toto. So there is a homeopathic angle, there's an allopathic angle, that whether, I'm not crossing the line, the patient is at a very safe space. So I usually repeat the USG to see what exactly, because when there are no symptoms, that is what you can depend on. The stone size was decreasing, but it was there. And in 2020, just before the lockdown, we did a USG, and that showed expulsion of stone. There were no symptoms. So I just gave him a call, because I was going to present his case, that how are you? And he said, doctor, I'm fine. And there are no symptoms as such. So that was the case in detail about renal calculi, expulsion of the stone. Now what I've done is, because it's a treatise, I've taken 18 cases. For ease of understanding, I want to discuss a broader findings of the of the case than the remedies itself, because you can imagine if I'm going to kind of discuss each and every case, and it is going to take a lot of time. But I will just rush through all the cases what I have taken into. So usually you'll see that is I have not kind of used any shortcuts. All the cases have been on individualization basis, not applied any specific remedy as such. And as sir was mentioning, yes, I now remember that in all the 18 cases, 17 have been males. So only 1 was female. And how small is small enough? This is for the stone. So the size of the stone is an important predictor of spontaneous passage. Now I'm just taking the statistics which is available. If it is smaller than 5 mm, there is 90% chance that it will pass without further intervention. And if the stone is between 5 to 10, the odds are 50%. Now, does that mean we don't treat stones which are less than 5 mm? No, we should. But this gives us a fair idea, because the most common question the patient will ask you is, "Kitna time lagega?" And naturally, you don't have an answer for this. But if you know the size of the stone and you know what are the probabilities, you can also give the patient a fair idea that how long he needs to take the medicines. So with that angle in mind, I have taken this slide and the learnings. So though the stone passage also depends on the, it also depends upon what is the shape. So if you have a staghorn calculi and the location, like as I mentioned in my case, it was very near to the ureteric pelvic junction. So that also is very important, that what kind, what stage the stone is, at what level, what is the location, what is the shape, that really matters in the outcome of the case. There were instances where large stone passed out and the small stone didn't move at all because of the location. So that is one of the learnings I would say I have. And also it is very important that we are not only going to kind of treat the stone. There are a lot of underlying conditions there. If the person is coming to you with urinary infection, you need to address that immediately. Because you don't want to end up the patient into a stage where he would require an admission and all. So and if there is a history of recurrent urinary infection, of course we consider that because we are treating holistically, but we need to put a special emphasis on these conditions. Do not promise cure. Wait for a long-term non-calculi stage. No, we have this habit that एक stone pass हो गया, मैंने cure कर दिया. It is not like that. I just read somewhere that there has to be a period of 5 years where the sonography should come normal. That is when you feel that now the patient is some kind of symptom free. So please don't promise cure to the patient, because we all know, like sir also taught, that once a stone former, always a stone former. So if you have cured him with one instance of stone and he goes back to his habit of not drinking water, not doing the necessary requirement, then he will again come back with a stone, and that is the time he will ask you that you said मुझे तो ठीक हो गया, आपने बताया नहीं कि ये वापस भी हो सकता है. So you need a lot of dialogue in renal calculi patients. So thus a homeopathic approach should be both a short term, facilitate the stone passage, as well as long term, preventing the further recurrence of the stone. And these are the like age when they're young in age, there is a family history, there are multiple stones at presentation. If there has been a surgery and there is still a residual stone, you need to be really careful and need to be really vigilant in those cases. Now in acute phases, a lot of time we get patient in acute phases where they are vomiting or they have not drank water and they are actually in a dehydrated stage. So if you are prescribing something and this is not getting corrected, the patient is not able to kind of take more water, or he still continues to vomit, beware of this condition, because he is in a dehydrated stage and we need to kind of make sure that the patient gets a hydration also. So it's not only giving the medicines and waiting that okay, vomiting theek ho jayega, but if it is not getting better, because if he goes into a stage into he may also go into the stage of ARF. So we need to be really careful for that. And when you have this report, look out whether there is an obstruction or an infection. Very important, because we kind of tend to oversee that. Please look out for it. And if both obstruction and infection are present, I'm not saying don't treat, but we need to be really vigilant. So this is your stage where I was referring to the miasmatic thing. You're in your kind of syphilitic background where there is pus in the urine, there is blood in the urine. You need to be very, very careful. Whether there is an obstruction but there is no infection, there is infection, there is no obstruction. In both cases, treat but be very vigilant. And if your medicines are insufficient to manage the pain, please again review the case. And then if there is an obstruction, look out, if there is a fever, there is a sepsis, there are signs like there is a high temperature, monitor that. You can't, if the temperature is not going down, then you need to do something about it. He is in a stage of infective pathology. If the WBC count is more, creat is high, and there are comorbid conditions. So if your patient is a diabetic or in a immunocompromised state, there is solitary kidney, or there's a pregnant female, be very vigilant in these conditions. Sir has already taken this dietary management part. I just wanted to give you a background of these 18 cases. So in none of the cases, actually, I saw, in West, they do a lot of stone analysis. So they try to find out that which stone they are treating. In all the cases, I have not seen that. Neither I have done it. But by the stats, it is like 80% of the stones are related to calcium. So I have always given a generic dietary kind of guideline to my patients. And this fluid intake, like this is very important. I have seen that how much ever you tell the patient, they're very reluctant. They will tell you, like sir said, they will tell you मैं तो बहुत पानी पीता हूँ. But when you actually go to find out, almost 12 patients of mine in this 18 used to take only 2 glasses a day. That is what was the count of the water intake, and they don't understand that what is the importance of it. And what I tell them usually is that you keep a bottle with you, because the people who are in office, they say बहुत दूर है, how to go there to fill. They're very lazy to go there. They are sitting in the AC. They hardly feel the urge to urinate, so they don't go. All these things are happening. So what I tell them is that you need to buy a 1 liter bottle, and you need to finish it. Whether you finish it at one go, whether you are drinking it throughout the day, I don't care. But you need to finish those 2 bottles when you're in office, because that's the time, almost like 12 hours goes there, and at least 1 bottle when you're at home. And that is your bottle. No one else will touch it. That way they know what is the count of the water. So this has really helped a lot of my patients, and then they try to remember it. So maybe this is a tip you all can use. But staying hydrated is very important, not only while you're treating them, but even after your treatment, because this is the, it is kind of a life tip you're giving them for the recurrence of the stone, for it not to happen. So sir is already taken, so I'll just brush through it. Now, acute remedies. So in these cases, the acute remedies which work, and usually, which are kind of very helpful, as I told you that we need to be really quick on prescription. Pain left-sided, these are the remedies like your benzoic acid, Colocin, Thuja. Right-sided, Apis, Lyco, Macphos. People can take a screenshot of it, because it is in a nutshell, what are the remedies which are helping a lot. And again, here I have compiled few remedies which are known to be really helpful in the renal calculi. Again, I will not be going through each and every remedy, so you all can take a screenshot of it. Here, one remedy I would like to talk of is Calcarea renalis. So it can really break, it is known to break the tendency when you have a patient with a recurrent stone formation. So someone who has recurrent stone, this is a remedy which really breaks the tendency. With 1 dose, you can really see a very good result. Again, one more slide for you all. Take a screenshot of it. So here one remedy I would like to talk about is Praveen sir in the last SSMS said that, medurinum, if you're stuck in a case, give 1 dose of medurinum, and it will really give you a free-flowing state of the patient. And I was really stuck at one case there, I had already changed 2 remedies and nothing was helping. So I gave 1 dose, and it really changed the entire course of the thing. So that's one great tip from Praveen sir, which we can imbibe. And to conclude, kidney stone is not a true diagnosis. Why do I say that? Because it's not that only the stone which you're treating. There are a lot of underlying factors. As a homeopath, we are doing, like we are asking the family history, the personal history, as I sir said, if the person is young, there are recurrent urinary tract infections, there are underlying diseases. So there's so many things. So we are actually, we think that we are treating the stone, but we are treating so many things under the guise of it. And homeopathic treatment in concurrence with dietary measures will definitely, help in expulsion of stones, but also prevent recurrence, because this recurrence is something which is really bothering. So I think we should all, kind of take up not only the simple cases, but we should also take up the challenging cases which we get. Because as I mentioned earlier, one stone, and if a person has to go for a surgery, he would end up paying, almost a lakh of rupees for it. So while doing this, I think as a homeopathic community, this is something which, like last time we were talking about evidence-based medicine. So, and sir also mentioned that here you have evidence in the form of stone, and if you're treating it, you have your evidence-based medicine here. Thank you. Thank you, Pradeep sir. I would like to thank few people here. So as you mentioned that, yes, I feel really, really blessed that while I was doing my internship, I just walked in ma'am's clinic, and that's the time one of her assistant was going, she was getting married, and she wanted an assistant. And I was doing my internship in Shushusha, and her clinic was at Worli. And I said, wow, this is nice. So I just went and sat at the reception, and there was one a glass weighing scale. And I was like, what is this? This is so amazing. And she walked in. And when I always say that when she walked in, I said, oh, this is what I want to be. So thank you, ma'am, for giving me all the opportunities you have given me. And then again, I met Sir there. So, it has been like you have a mother and a father in your career. So you definitely go well ahead. I would like to thank all the stalwarts, like NGH gives you a platform, like there are so many of them, Tiwari sir, Kasim sir, Ajit sir, so many of them, who guide you, and you feel really blessed that you're amongst so many people out there. And I would like to thank also Vibha ma'am, because she has, behind the curtains, she always guides us. So when ma'am used to shout, we used to go running to her and like, what wrong we did, and she would, kind of help us a lot. So, and she's always behind. So thank you, Vibha ma'am. And Dr. Satish Kanodia, last but not the least, now he's become a go-to person. So like, I just told him in the evening that I want one video, please give me. And he just, himself did that and gave it to me. So thank you, and thank you everyone for the patient hearing.
I would like to say something here. The acting of Satish Kanodia was so good that somebody has asked what remedy was given to that patient in acute condition.
Yeah.
And there is one question again. I think Dr. Asrani sir should, sir, this a patient having hydronephrosis, but no other complaints. She came to me for secondary amenorrhea. Does her stone and menses problem are connected?
No. Stone and menses are not connected, but that stone and hydronephrosis has to be tackled before or in conjunction with tackling her secondary amenorrhea. And especially if she is planning a family, planning to get pregnant, we need to get it out. Otherwise, she may have an acute emergency during pregnancy.
Yeah. There is one question for Dr. Sushma, whether that carcinosin 1M was given or some other potency.
So I had given 1M throughout.
Okay, and then you have repeated it?
Yes, so whenever there was this acute episode, I used to repeat it little often, because then definitely there is some inflammation out there. That is when I repeated frequently. Otherwise, I used to wait for the sonography and the period where there was no symptom. Then I would sometimes repeat it once a month or once in 3 months, because the stone was still there. So after the USG part, then I gave that. That was the whole course of the medicines.
One question is there that whether you have used acute medicines, because carcinosin is more constitutional type of medicine.
Right.
So,
So like in this case, I had given him Cantharis. So whenever he came with the typical symptoms of Cantharis, and it always helped. So like I said, in the second and third episode, the symptoms were little lesser, but they were still the similar ones. So I've given that. And one thing I would like to say, there are a lot of people who give berberis as a acute and mother tincture for a longer period of time. So initially, what I used to do was, people who were a little anxious or who were a little skeptical of homeopathy and that ये छोटी pill क्या काम करेगी, there I used to give them mother tincture. So they used to have the taste of it and feel that yeah, some medicines have been given. So I have done that in patients who are a little anxious or who feel that kya hoga. But yeah, that helps sometimes with the patients. They have a little more faith in you, and then later on, you can continue with the.
And then there is another question that whether cholelithiasis and kidney stones, whether drainage remedies can be given.
I have not used it, so I am not. Maybe someone can add here. I've mostly relied on my constitutional medicines, and they have really helped always. So it's more of an individualization and.
Okay.
Okay,
And
I
there
will
is one
answer
question,
that.
whether endocrine disorders cause stone
No,
formation.
Pradeep, I'll answer that question of cholelithiasis and kidney stone.
Okay.
See, in kidney stone, because you have a urinary passage with constant flow, you are able to shrink the stone and hope for it to pass. For a cholelithiasis, the neck of the gallbladder is not as conducive to passage of stone as the urinary tract is. So do not attempt, like, of course you can treat, but the success in a gallbladder stone is not likely to be as good or as satisfying as in urinary stone. They mostly require surgery. Even we do not give, of course there are good medicines available now, but then the results are very, very poor and they are quite expensive. Telling someone to take a medicine for 4,000 rupees for 6 months and then nothing. So even we don't give that.
And this endocrine disorder.
Yeah, we've been saying that hyperparathyroidism can cause stone. So that is an endocrine disorder.
We have got a very good question. Dr. Sanju Dore, one of the eminent homeopath from Pune, has asked whether Philanthus Q you have used. What is your opinion about it, Dr. Sushma?
So as I mentioned, I have not used mother tinctures a lot. I have mostly given a constitutional. I have taken a constitutional approach, and as I said that patients who had some anxiety or something, I would just give a berberis, which was safe, kind of thing. So I have not used it, but I've read that it has really, has been helpful and all. So yes, if it is indicated and if you want to give it, why not? I mean, I feel that it's based on each homeopath. So if you feel that I would like to take that approach, I think there's no harm in giving something which will help.
And there is one interesting question that whether if the stone gets stuck while it is passing down, what should we do?
So this has happened once, and that more than the pain, the anxiety it caused was tremendous. It was tremendous, and the acute I had given was pulsatilla because it was matching the symptoms. So I just repeated one dose of pulsatilla, and the stone passed out. So so if your acute is something which is going to help, and it is the remedy. In that case, it helped and immediately he passed. And it was actually, sir, if you remember, it was in the clinic itself and he came out with the stone. So that is the instance I can tell you.
But I definitely agree with you, Dr. Sushma, that you have to be very vigilant when you are treating these cases. I know one instance where one patient came with a staghorn calculus and he was given assurance that it will be resolved by one of a doctor. So I think we should be very vigilant and we should be updated that the staghorn calculus cannot be resolved with any medicine. So we have to have surgical as well as medical treatment separately, and we should understand that. I hope everyone is enjoying. I request everyone to subscribe NGH on Facebook, on Instagram, on Telegram, on YouTube, and you can visit our website www.njhonline.com. And please, I think, join Telegram Tuesday case group. so that you will able to learn. You will have more questions there. You can get all the answers to your queries, and it will be a good discussion. So
Pradeep, I want to give a tip here.
Yeah.
See, many times we do not tell our patients how to get the stone for analysis. So normally everybody gets worsening of symptoms. I tell my patients, keep a tea strainer in the bathroom and pass urine through the strainer and then give it for checking. So it is always recommended to identify what is the composition of the stone. Even for your prevention of recurrence, it will help you a lot. So better get more and more stones caught and get them histopathology done.
Yeah, but I have seen many times, sir, that even after operations, these stones are never been checked. And I think we should be vigilant in that also, because I got one patient who was operated 5 years back. He preserved that stone and he came with that, and he told that, oh, this is the stone which it was surgically removed. So I naturally asked whether their pathological study was done. So it was not done. So I think
So
we should
then
be
you
vigilant.
should always insist on them.
Yeah, exactly. So it was very nice, Dr. Asrani sir, Dr. Sushma. It was very, very nice and full of this. Your Dr. Sushma, it was really how to approach a renal calculi, perfect holistic way, and Dr. Asrani sir, perfect scientific way. So it was a very good combination, and I thank both of you for this wonderful treatise, and I thank all our viewers and our participants for joining us. Do join us.